Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. Good evening and welcome to the Belle Residents Association. This is just a board meeting. This is not our annual meeting. We don't often have meetings monthly that we open to residents, but since we are having meetings on Zoom now and it's ballot season, we thought we would have a meeting and inform residents of some ballot issues and just do our regular business online. So thank you for attending. I think we had about 40 something people registered tonight. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:32 and I believe we have all board members present except for David Leeds at this point. Am I missing anybody else? Monica's not here either. Who's going to take our minutes? Oh, she is. I see her. Okay. And I'd like to welcome our guest, who I will introduce shortly. As our first matter of business, I'd like to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was on May 6th. The minutes were distributed this afternoon. It was a rather informal Zoom meeting as well. So I just want to see if any board members have any additions, corrections, or comments. If not, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, Scott, do I have a second?
Gary Core, second.
Okay, and any more discussion? And raise your hand. And if not, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting. All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, and I don't think anybody's opposed. Gary, if we can have a brief treasurer's report from you, please.
Right. Okay. We have $12,800 in the bank. This year we had so far this year we have $863 worth of expenses, which basically comprise subscription to our email and web server. And that's it. If anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Okay, and we put an item forward. There is a program called Thank You Thursday, and what they do, it's Marguerite Ramos and Betsy Perez in North Beach, and what they do, they put together a group and they approach restaurants, local restaurants that could use the business right now, and they get a neighborhood organization or individuals to sponsor them to do a lunch for the police officers at the station. And so they reached out to me and I thought it was a great idea, so we can show our thanks to the police officers. And we will get to pick a local restaurant. We can give her a list of 3. She'll approach them and see who will do it, because it's obviously, they do it at a discount. And we make a sponsorship for $550 for that. So I think we agreed in principle to that. Do I have a motion for that, $550 for that program? Debbie?
I'll motion.
Okay, and second.
I second it.
Thank you. Monica, any discussion on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to make sure that when the food is delivered, representatives of the association and the community go with the food.
Yes, I will definitely that's one of the things that they do that I think is great, is they give you the option to deliver it yourself, and we would love to do that. So I just want to tell those people that are listening, if you're interested, it's called Thank You Thursday. There's a Facebook page. So if you're a Facebook member, you can just go and search for Thank You Thursday. If you can't find it, or if you're not on Facebook and you want to participate, feel free to send an email to Marguerite Ramos at margmiami@gmail.com. Again, it's margmiami@gmail.com. If you can't remember all that, you can contact me and I'll be glad to put you in touch with her. So I think it's a great program, and I'm glad that we're going to be supporting our police right now in this time. While I'm at this point, we're up to 39 participants. I'd like to remind or let our guests know that if you have a question, you can type the question in. You can either type it live and we'll try to answer it when we're on the topic, or at the end, we will go through and catch all the questions. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A button. You just press it and you'll type the question in and we will get to that. So please.
Scott,
Yeah.
question, can you put the other email address you just listed or the link? Can you put that in the Q&A for everyone as well?
They won't see it.
I see.
They won't see it. So yeah, sorry about that. But again, reach out to us. You can always send an email to belleisleresidence@gmail.com and we'll be glad to respond. I'll put you in touch with those people. Thank you, Debbie. That's it with the questions. We have our first, well, early actually. I don't know if Joy and Casey are here. I think Casey was on.
Joy's here.
Hi, Joy. How are you?
Hi, Scott. Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for participating.
Is
So-
your cat vote?
You'll probably see him jump on my shoulders at some point during the meeting. He loves a Zoom meeting. So I would like to introduce, we have Casey Stedman, who is the acting director of the Wolfsonian FIU Museum, and Joy Malakoff, our former commissioner and friend. Joy is the chair of the advisory board for the Wolfsonian FIU Museum. So they are going to present our first ballot question. It's going to be on the ballot. This is good. This is probably the first time in my 20 years in Miami Beach when I haven't seen anybody really actively opposing an. So it's very nice to see a lot of community support behind this. I know a lot of people don't really know what's going on in the ballots. So whoever would like to start, Casey or Joy, please unmute yourself and feel free to have the floor.
Sure. If it was possible, could the host allow me to share my screen?
Yes, he can. And that's the other Scott. Scott, do you know how to do that?
You should have at the bottom of your screen, if you put your mouse down there, a share screen, I believe, green button.
That's correct. It's still indicating it's disabled by the host. So you need to allow me to be a co-host by clicking on
you. We got you. I have him.
Huh. It should be disabled.
Let's see if it'll work now.
Sorry, while it's open, I don't know how to do that, so I apologize.
That's quite all right. I can walk through without the presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with the residents of Belle Isle, and I appreciate the board's opportunity to present. Most of you may have seen articles recently, and Susan Askew presented an article on Miami Beach Re a few months ago, actually. And then more recently, the Miami Herald ran an article in the Tropical Sunday section concerning our project. So there you can find some wonderful images and some ideas about the concept.
Oh, God.
We lost Casey's audio.
Okay.
Casey, your audio.
Am I back again?
You're
Yes.
back. We
Perfect.
missed everything, Casey.
All right. So where did I leave off? The background or the beginning? So just to give you an idea of why this project's moving forward, we were approved for $10 million from the Building Better Community Bond Funds that were approved in 2004 by the Miami-Dade County voters. The expectation was that we would develop 25,000 square feet of newly publicly accessible space for our facilities. We've developed conceptual plans. As I said, you can see them in the Miami Herald or in Susan Askew's article on Miami Beach Re. And hopefully very soon in your mailboxes, we'll be supplying some more information about the project and more images. But basically, we intend to expand the Wolfsonians' presence at Washington Avenue, just to the north of our existing building. The expansion would basically allow us to continue what is now or soon to be 25 years of presence here in the community. In November 11, 2020, we will celebrate our 25th anniversary. And so we're very excited about that, albeit not the best time to be celebrating a major anniversary. But we're very pleased with what we've been able to accomplish in those 25 years and how we've touched lives, been able to present materials that really spark thought and imagination. And we think with this expansion, we have the opportunity to sort of build upon that legacy to create a better presence and a stronger presence for the Wilsonian as a cultural anchor in the community. In this next chapter and in this expansion, we will be able to triple our public exhibition spaces to over 50,000 square feet. We will be creating new and innovative and engaging spaces that will support learning and exploring with our collections. And we also know that it will more deeply embed the Wilsonian and arts and culture in our community. Miami Beach has been such a wonderful community as it relates to arts and culture, so we're very excited that we'll be able to make a bigger presence in that community. When we move into the expansion, we plan to develop 2 levels of double height galleries. We also will be creating innovative studios and labs and learning spaces. This will allow us to expand the amount of the collections that we have on display at any given time. It will also allow us to have more areas for programming and learning experiences to go on for the community, for our K through 12 programs, and for adult learners, for anybody in the community that wants to come in and learn. The nice thing about the expansion is we wish to continue sort of the designs that exist in the current Wilsonian. For those of you that have visited, you're familiar with the way that the building integrates items from our collection and as architectural elements throughout, such as the Norris Theater facade, which is the fountain in our lobby. We see that continuing as we expand and build this new expansion. We'll be incorporating light fixtures, murals. We have a significant collection of architectural elements, fireplaces, surprisingly enough, we have quite a few of those. And then we just have an incredible collection of objects. 200,000 items are in our collection, and we continue to expand and grow that collection. One of the major spaces in the expansion will be the Great Hall Gallery. As I said before, it's a double height space. There's a significant number of pieces in our collection that are larger than life. We have never been able to present them before because we just physically have not had the spaces. So we're really excited about having this new double height gallery where we can bring those items, put them on display for the first time, and begin to tell stories about those collection items and integrate them into our interpretive program and create opportunities for visitors to learn more. That same Great Hall Gallery, the wonderful thing about it is it's flexible. Instead of an empty auditorium that would exist, 70% of the time it would be empty, we're actually going to create a gathering space in the center of the Great Hall. So we will move some collection items to the side, and our programming will actually happen while you're immersed in the collection and surrounded by all these items as you're learning about them or listening to presentations that might be inspired by them. So we're really excited about how that experience will work out for everyone as we go forward. The other important piece of this is creating these wonderful learning spaces. We work closely with the students at FIU. We also have an extensive K through 12 program. And we're also very interested in developing more opportunities for lifelong learners in our community. So we think that we can create some really interesting spaces where those sort of activities can go on, where individuals feel that they have the experiences that they're looking for when they come visit the museum. We also see the opportunity to create and expand our digital production areas. The Knight Foundation has been a very generous supporter in all of our efforts to digitize our collections. Thanks to that effort that's been going on for multiple years, in March, when we all had to sort of change the way we lived and shift to a virtual world, we were able to quickly shift and create programming using that content. We see that continuing as an opportunity, even as we look toward the new normal. There will be a hybrid. There still will be virtual components, I think, to learning and what we do. So those digital efforts, we really want to move forward, and we're excited about that opportunity because it creates accessibility to the collection that we can never accomplish with just physical spaces. So while we will have more on display, we'll even have more available through our digital platform, thanks to the Knight Foundation. So that's my presentation. We're certainly looking forward to another 25 years and more of the Wilsonian really delivering a significant arts and cultural program here in Miami Beach for South Florida and for the world. You know, we want to continue in this role as someone that inspires individuals, provokes thought and imagination, and also as part of the community in terms of representing what it is in terms of preservation and what this community values in terms of arts and culture. So I thank you for the time. I think, Joy, you might have a few comments that you want to share as we close out.
Thank you very much, Casey. You did a good presentation. I'm sorry you couldn't show the pretty pictures, but the new edition will be beautiful. And it does belong on Washington Avenue. It'll be set back and it'll be very welcoming. I don't know if any of you, hopefully all of you, have been to the Wilsonian Museum, but when you look at the entrance, it's very forbidding, like a fortress, because it was originally the Washington Storage Building. And Washington Storage, my grandparents back in the 40s would store their woolen rugs for the summertime when they went up north. And that's what the Washington Storage was built as, to protect even during hurricanes. So this edition is going to be much more welcoming. And I'm asking you all to vote yes on the 5th referendum. There's going to be 6 referendums for Miami Beach on this year's ballot in November. You need to push item 242. So make a note of it. 242 is yes on the Wilsonians referendum. I think Casey's told you all about the exciting planned expansion, but I want you all to know it's really important to move the Wilsonian FIU forward. The Wilsonian is one of the largest museums in the country. It has more than 200,000 items. It's one of Miami Beach's charter cultural partners, and it's part of the city's hopes for the future, which is to get more cultural tourism to the city. As residents, we will have new public spaces, a welcoming entrance, green courtyard, and there will be more green space, and it'll be resilient with green space higher up as well on the roof line. There'll be a new gathering and major exhibit space in the Great Hall that Casey mentioned, where large items can now be displayed. It'll be more neighborly. It's a very inviting addition with more content available to all of us that we have never seen before. The new construction will be set back from Washington Avenue. It'll be about 50 feet in height, even though the height limit on Washington Avenue is now 75 feet. It's not taking advantage of the full height. And it'll be beautiful. So my request to you as the chairman of the Wilsonian FIU Advisory Board, but also as charter member of the city's Miami Beach Historic Preservation Board, and as a former commissioner, as Scott so kindly introduced me as, to please vote yes on number 242. Again, that's the 5th referendum item for Miami Beach. It's confusing. There are 3 for the Marina project. Then the 4th one is something for the city of Miami Beach. The 5th one is us, the Wilsonian. And then the 6th one is also a city one. We're stuck between 2 city ones. But please look for that item, the 5th item, and vote yes. It's a very, very important to move the Wilsonian forward into the 21st century. Thank you. Any questions? I'm happy to answer, and Casey's happy to answer. Deborah.
Could you just explain to us exactly what it is that the referendum says and is asking us to do? Because I haven't seen it in writing.
I have it in writing right here from the Miami Herald.
Thank you.
Shall the city adopt ordinance increasing the FAR from 1.5 to a maximum of 3.25 and limiting maximum height to 75 feet for properties within the proposed Wilsonian Arts District, generally located at northeast corner of Washington Avenue and 10th Street, and located within the CD2 zoning district? Yes, 242, no, 243.
Okay, so you're just asking for an FAR increase as opposed to funding or anything else, is that correct?
That's correct. The $10 million is already in a bond issue that was approved by the county several years ago.
Okay, thank you so
And we're not
much, I appreciate it.
Built to 75 feet, but it'll be a lower building than that. It's not a tower.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. Any other questions?
Does
Well, thank
anybody
you
else
so much.
from the audience have any questions? You can type them in and we'll give you a minute. But while you're doing that, I do want to remind you to vote. Most of us, I think, watching will vote at the Botanical Gardens. And if you're scared of voting, please don't be. I went for the primaries there, and unfortunately, there were only about 135 people that came all day long. But the entrance will be open. The garden is more beautiful than it's ever been. And it's a really, we're good voters. The Venetian is one of the best voting blocks in the city. So I was not kidding when I tell you, I literally do not know one organization that is opposed to this. All the community organizations, all the commissioners, the chamber, everybody is for this item. So I can easily say there's no drama with this one. So please do vote and vote. I'm not going to tell you how to vote anything else, but vote yes.
We do need your votes. That's important because some people just skip the referendums and just vote for the president. So we really do need you to vote for this referendum.
Yeah. Okay.
Just real quick, Scott.
Yeah.
We certainly thank you for the opportunity, Scott and Belle Isle residents.
Thank you for the time.
So nice to see you all again. Last time I was in to see you all, it was for a bank loan. I was a banker.
That's
before days.
right. That's right.
Long ago.
Thank you so much, Joy. And
My
thank
pleasure.
you, Casey. It was a pleasure. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay. We are ahead of schedule, which is shocking. And our next item is the Flamingo Point proposed building and height increase. Lee Hodges is here. Lee, are you here? You're there. Lee can unmute himself. Lee is, and forgive me if I'm not right, you're the Vice President of Redevelopment for AIMCO, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And
go ahead.
Take it away. This is not a ballot issue. So this is going to, the reason we are talking about this is because it's going in front of the planning board. I believe on October 27th. The agenda was not online, but it is going to go for public comment in front of the planning board. And it is a building that will be in the view of Belle Isle residents facing east from Belle Isle. So we wanted to give him the chance to present his project. As is so often the problems today is that we hear a lot of things that are not necessarily true when a project is presented. So we're happy to have Lee and would like him to tell us about his project.
Great, thank you and good evening. Scott, I have a request because I also am getting a message that says I cannot share my screen.
Okay.
Could I email you the presentation and you put it up? Because this is very visual and I think it would be a disservice I can walk through it verbally, but it would be a grave disservice.
Yeah, could you send it, you ready?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
SJ Van Hove, VANHOVE @live.com.
Okay, it's going to you right now. I've been sitting here throughout the previous presentation and I kept getting the same message and I was like, how can I do this? But I think this will be an easy workaround. The presentation is not long, so I'll keep you ahead of schedule, I promise. I just have a few key slides and graphics that I think everyone would be interested in. And if I just tried to do it verbally, I think we would just generate more questions and confusion. So any luck there, Scott?
It's still not here. I'll repeat in case you got it wrong, my first name is Scott, so the letter S.
Yep.
Jacob, so just use J, and Van Hove, V as in Victor, ANHO, V as in Victor, E at live, LIVE.com.
Yes, sir. Okay, there we go. It's trying. I don't know. There he goes. Just took a minute there. I promise you I'll keep everyone ahead of schedule.
The screen says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yes, sir. That's the same message I have. While we wait for Scott to put the presentation up for us, I'll go ahead and start. My name is Lee Hodges. I'm the Vice President of Redevelopment for AIMCO. For those who don't know AIMCO, AIMCO is a national publicly funded real estate investment trust. And AIMCO has been a resident of Miami Beach and a neighbor since 1998. The old Morton Towers property was purchased by AIMCO in 1998. In the mid 2000s, like 2005, 2007, AIMCO received zoning approval for and constructed the big oval tower in the middle of the property, and has been a resident at Flamingo. And in 2015, I was retained from a search by AIMCO to reimagine and redevelop Flamingo into a property for the company that they intend to keep for the next 50 years. I thought it was a great opportunity. And for those who do not know, Flamingo, in one form or another, starting with the original hotel, will be 100 years old on New Year's Eve this year. The original hotel opened 100 years ago on New Year's Eve. And so we want to celebrate 100 years of Flamingo on Miami Beach with this new redevelopment that has been under construction since 2017 and will be complete in 2023. So here, just this first slide is just a picture of the original hotel that opened 100 years ago. And the picture on the right is the Flamingo campus with the proposed new tower shown on the left there. Yep, with the point. Then the next slide, we just wanted to show everyone that the property at Flamingo looks like it's built out, but believe it or not, there is 100,000 square feet of FAR that is available to AIMCO for development on the RM2 portion of the property. The RM2 portion of the Flamingo property is the northern 1/3 of the property, which includes the 100 feet from the Anna Capri south to the existing garage of the Flamingo, and then about another 75 feet into the garage. The zoning actually bifurcates the building, and there's two districts. The southern 2/3 is RM3, the northern 1/3 is RM2. Currently in RM2 is where we have the 100,000 square feet of FAR available to build. The current RM2 requirements, zoning requirements, will allow us to build a building that is 140 feet tall. And if we build a building that is 140 feet tall, as shown in the little picture on the left here, in order to accommodate the 100,000 square feet of FAR, we will be required to build on a long skinny building on the property, taking up a majority of the available property that is there. So what we were looking to do is we're looking to reduce the footprint to allow us to keep as much of the property undeveloped as possible, to create more pervious area, to create bioswales, and to increase the permeability on the site to help reduce flooding and in keeping with the city's resiliency plan. So what we designed with our team is the building that's on the right, which you can see is a smaller footprint. It is, for relativity purposes, the western edge, we're looking at the eastern side now. You can see all the green space in the front. The pavement that you see there is required paving. That's the fire access lane that goes into the property. But all of that will be pervious paving. And then between the pervious paved area and the north property line, we're going to do a bioswale all the way down from Bay Road to the west side of the new tower, and from the west side of the tower out to the to the bay walk. We're going to do a bioswale to create a natural flood prevention area. The western side of the building, if you look at it because of the way that the shoreline goes there, we are just about, I would say, 15 feet from the east side of the Anacapri, just for some relativity, because everybody is pretty versed in the neighborhood. So that's relative where this sits on the site. And as we go through the presentation, we'll see it on a site plan. If we can go to the next slide. This is the slide, shows another view of the existing Flamingo buildings with the new tower on the far left-hand side. And again, the height, in order to accomplish this building, we need to do a code amendment specifically for RM2 zoned properties that are bifurcated zoning and that are greater than 10 acres in size, to allow the height increase from 140 feet to 300 feet. And as we'll see a little further down in the presentation, 300 feet, we chose that number because it's pretty consistent with the heights, relative heights in the neighborhood. I think the word that staff uses is contextually acceptable. And then in addition, we're looking for a little relief on the side setback. The current RM2 zoning requires a 43-foot setback for the tower and an 18-foot setback for the pedestal. So what we're doing with this building is we're proposing to have the tower and the pedestal be one building. We're not building a larger pedestal and a smaller tower. We're just bringing the slender tower all the way down to the ground to keep the footprint as small as possible. And so what we're requesting is that the side setback relief from 43 feet to 18 feet for only a length of 25% of the property. So we couldn't build a 300-foot tall building the entire length of the property. It's only limited to 25%, so that it's a very small area that the height increase is allowed in. Next slide, please. When we looked at this, I don't know if it's possible to zoom in on the site plan, but we started with the existing Morton Towers, the Flamingo campus. On the north side of the parking garage, you can see the tiny little footprint, which is the proposed new tower. And then just to the north of that is the Anacapri, and then the Capri. And so when we looked at this, we started looking at sight lines and shadows to make sure that we were not significantly impacting any of our neighbors. since the Anna Capri is our most immediate neighbor on the north side. Then if you zoom back out or around, you can see on some of the drawings on the right-hand side, we took some of the photos of the views from the Anna Capri. You can see the new tower over on the left-hand side with the existing north tower. Yeah, there you go. With the existing north tower, like right behind it, that's there, and then the new towers further to the left. And yeah, the second one shows it a little bit different angle. Yeah. And so we've been working this to share with our neighbors to the north at the Capri. The next slide. So we can get through with this and allow time for questions. We looked at the height contextually in the neighborhood from Yacht Club or Sunset Harbor, Yacht Harbor, down to South Point. Contextually at 300 feet, there are some different heights of buildings throughout the area, but at 300 we're pretty close to the middle of the range between South Point and Sunset Harbor. Next slide. Here we just looked at ranking the building by height. Here you can see, we're about the middle of the range. And then also for the footprint, you can see how small our footprint is compared to all of the other buildings that exist in the same area. The next slide. The next one down. There we go. Okay, well, the next slide is just a slide to discuss public benefit. As part of the code amendment, the city must deem that the project is clearly in the public interest. So we have this public benefit hurdle. And because we are owners and residents of the Wavna neighborhood, we would like to work with our neighbors, which includes the mainland Wavna neighbors, as well as the Belle Isle residents who are immediately adjacent, to provide a public benefit that enhances our community. We have had some discussions with some other groups before tonight, and it has been discussed that 10th Street Pocket Park or the Pocket Park green space improvements at Lincoln Court would be good additions to the neighborhood. We've been listening to everyone. Staff has said to us that city staff has said to us, they don't really care about the parks and the immediate neighborhood. They want us to provide, pumping equipment and drainage from, for the outfalls on our property. We've been working with staff to see if and how we could accommodate them. What we've found is that the sizes of the equipment and the size that will be needed to go on our property is physically too large to even fit on the property. The property is 100 feet wide, and their equipment requires 100 feet and a little bit more. And if we go the full 100 feet, that would start to undermine the existing buildings at Flamingo. So we're trying to work with the neighbors and to present a united front to the city that says, we as the neighbors in the West Avenue district and immediately adjacent Belle Isle would like to see these improvements to enhance our neighborhood as part of the public benefit for this project. And, in addition to the public benefit that we can do offsite, onsite, I've talked about, us maintaining the maximum pervious area and the small footprint for the resiliency, and to minimize the flooding impacts from sea level rise per the ULI recommendations. With that, I've completed the presentation. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if anyone would like to back up and review some of the slides, I'll turn the floor back over to you, Scott.
Okay, we have a couple minutes. Do any residents have any questions? And while if anybody's going to type any in, Lee, you're going in front of the planning board next. Can you just tell us what your process is at this point going forward? So,
yes, the process is we have submitted an application. We will be heard in front of the planning board October 27th, I believe is the date, and then we will go to commission for first reading in November, and we will go to commission for second reading in December for the code change. And then if we're successful with that, then we will schedule for DRB in January so that we will be ready to start construction in April.
okay, and I do have a question. As far as the bioswale goes, I don't know how familiar you are with them. Does the bioswale empty into Biscayne Bay is the question.
I'm not very familiar with them. I'm vaguely familiar. I've learned a lot in the past 60 days. But no, the bioswale is 100% self-contained. The way that I understand it is it's a small depression in the land just to collect any of the floodwaters that would run off from adjacent hard surfaces, and to allow the water to then percolate into the soil from that location. So no, it does not drain into the bay. It's all contained on site. And if you're familiar with Flamingo, from the bay, you have the Bay Walk. And then adjacent to the Bay Walk, coming into the property, you have approximately a 5-foot or 4-foot solid block wall, and then glass on top of that. So the bioswale and everything would be inside of that wall, inside of the property, with no draining.
Okay, we're going to go for one more question.
I have a question.
I was going to ask this one first. So Jack wanted you to please speak more to the issue of pumping equipment on your property. There are multiple existing pumping stations that don't appear to be larger than 100 feet. And given the issue of siting new pumping station locations in the neighborhood, this would be a true public benefit if you could offer that. And then somebody else asked, and you can answer both of these, what is the benefit for Belle Isle residents? Won't this impede our views? And Herb, what did you want to ask? And then he can address these.
I wanted to know how many units there will be, and what about parking?
Okay, let's start and we'll go backwards. Okay. The new building is proposed to have 36 new luxury apartments. With the proposed floor plan, we will have 2 units per floor. We'll have one on the north and one on the south. So all the units will have east and west views, and then either north or south, depending on the side of the building. All apartments will be 3-bedroom, 3 bathrooms. Average square feet, 1,800 square feet per unit. So all of the parking and all of the vehicular access for this new tower will be through the current Flamingo entrance. If you've driven down Bay Road, you see the new entrance that was built more centric to the Bay, to the Flamingo property, where we have a bunch of wood cladding. That's the entrance for resident parking. It's also an entrance for a ride share that peels off once you get inside the property, where we have an on-property ride share pickup drop-off area. And we also have in that area further back a valet area. So all the residents enter through that main entrance on the property. And the residents of this tower will park in the existing garage. where we have 50% more parking than we need. Today, the parking garage there sits 50% empty most all the time. So we've got more than enough parking. And in fact, city staff has been working with us and requesting us to eliminate some of the parking that's striped in there, because at the time this building was built, they required so much parking that there are parts of this garage that have triple tandem parking spaces marked off, that the city now wants us to cut back to at least a double tandem, so that we don't have over parking, is what they're calling it in the garage.
Okay, I think that's good with the parking. Let's move on because we're over time. So let's wrap
Okay.
up real quick. The pumping station, that would be a big benefit. And you cannot put you won't consider that, huh?
We have been working with staff. They have given us drawings, and based on the size that they say they need for the pump stations, we just haven't been able to fix it on the site. And we're more than willing to continue discussions with staff, and we will do that. Just because this is a tight site and because of the size of this equipment, we may be limited in that aspect. I think there was one more question about the views. The views, this building is a very small footprint, so it'll have just a very small impact on view. And I'm not sure the difference in height, or the height of the buildings on Belle. I think they're around the mid-20s and below. But the as of right building would be 140 feet tall, which would be approximately 16 or 17 stories tall. So this, I'm not sure exactly the view impact that it would have, but for the most part, there would be a building at least 140 feet in the location.
Okay, Lee, thank you very much for your time. And residents, like we've said, there's a planning board meeting on October 27th, a DRB meeting in January. You can follow this and definitely make your voice heard. Thank you very much.
And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Scott, if you want to send emails to me, that's fine, or put people to me, we can do that. Thank you very much.
Follow up with our residents so that they have your contact information.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks very much. And our next guest, good evening, David. Thank you for joining us.
I thank you so much for having me.
This is David Martin. He's CEO of Terra Group. David is developing the Convention Center Hotel. He's has a good reputation for other developments around town. He builds quality things, and it's nice that he took the time to be here himself tonight. So David, take it away.
Thank you so much, everyone, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about the Miami Beach Marina and our vision for this city asset. First, and Scott, I emailed you the presentation just in case, unless you want, I could share screen. It's really your call, but you could post it and share it, and I could walk everyone through. And just wanted to maybe just start with a little background. So the city kind of in the 80s set up something called the South Point Revitalization Plan. It was for south of 5th, and part of that plan included a rhythm of parks at South Point, at the southern tip of Miami Beach, as well as creating a marina in order to make Miami Beach kind of a premier yachting destination. And so for us, we currently, the current leaseholder of the property has 32 years left on their lease. To be frank, the lease is somewhat not very good from an economic standpoint and also from a legal standpoint for the city. So when I got involved, I kind of proposed an idea of really reducing the amount of retail that was currently there, improving improving the marina and upgrading the marina, creating a park for the residents, and also adding around 60 residential units in order to create a, kind of an economic impact for the city. And so we went through, and Scott, were you able to receive the presentation, or were you able to do that or no? Did you check your email, Scott? I don't know. Can you hear me, Scott? I'm sorry.
Yes, I just sent another email. It hasn't come through.
Okay, so I have it here. Let me just do.
So I just responded back again saying,
Yeah, no problem. Here it is. I still don't have file. Give me 5 seconds and it should be going shortly here.
David, there's 2 Scotts, so I don't know. I'm sending it to him. I got it. So
Oh, you did? Okay.
yeah, I sent it to him too. So
I just sent it to Scott as well. I think I probably sent it to the wrong Scott. I'm sorry about that.
confusing. No.
Yeah, no problem. So anyways, just having a quick conversation. So, we went through a pretty rigorous process kind of during the pandemic, trying to do community outreach. And it was pretty intense. The amount of, we had around 10 public hearings. We went through and had president's groups meetings for South of Fifth. We had a SOFNA meeting with over 400 members that participated. And we got support from a lot of the condo associations, from a lot of the buildings in the center of Fifth community, as well as the Miami Beach Housing Authority. If you guys aren't aware, the retail building that's currently there has the Rebecca Towers to the south, which is a senior community, and they basically are run by the Miami Housing Authority, and so we also got their endorsement and support. And so the idea with the project was to, how do we, kind of re-energize and revitalize the marina? How do we create a kind of a business case for the city to be able to get some money in order to, there's kind of like three questions. One of the questions has to do with the certain minimum contributions that are going to be made to affordable housing, I think, and also to for the COVID for COVID budgetary reasons. And so, what we did was we hired Bjark Ingels and kind of basically the properties around 3 acres. We're really only building on 1 of the acres. The other acre will be kind of somewhat open space, and the other acre on the north side, and then on the south side, which I wish I could show you. Scott, were you able to get it, or you still don't have it? Okay.
I'm still waiting.
Okay. All right. So, so let me see here. Here we go. And I have an email of sjvanhove@live.com. Great. Okay. All right. And then, great.
I'm trying.
So no worries. I'll do my best to do it, to ad lib through the PowerPoint. But so the idea of the project had a lot to do with these 5 pillars. One was this marina park that will be built and dedicated to the city. The second piece of the puzzle was upgrading the marina. There's around $40 million that's being spent on the marina to upgrade. Third was great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. Really appreciate it. You can go to the next slide. This here shows a little bit about the kind of the outreach that we did. We have a website that's mbmarinapark.com that we set up early on in the process. We also created an information center at the marina for residents to be able to go. And then in the mbmarinapark.com, there was probably over 60 questions that we were able to answer for the community, which was a very important part of this dialogue here to really get as much resident input as possible. If you go to the next slide, please. Great. These are the kind of the 5 basic components. Try to keep this brief. Obviously, a Baywalk improvements, the lifestyle portion, basically there's 57,000 square feet of retail today. And so we'll be reducing that to around 45,000. And then obviously there's a big resiliency thing. We're installing over 20 wells. We're probably going to be able to deal with stormwater water quality for probably a third of the South Beach Basin. And we're doing a host of other things that hopefully I'll show you a little more later. Next slide. This kind of talks to you a little bit about the financial transaction. So this is really the fiscal benefits, but the $40 million goes to the marina. The $22.5 million goes into the upland infrastructure. And then there's $55 million in payment to the city. A brief analysis we did, because given the fact that the current lease is 32 years, we wanted only to show what our new proposal would be for the first 32 years with increased rent, the increased property tax revenue, and obviously the sale of air rights. And that was around an incremental benefit of $147 million going to the city. Obviously the tax revenue, of which a third is around $9 million. So the school board gets some, as well as the county. Some job creation numbers. We had a firm called Mine Economic Associates that kind of created this economic impact study. And then the last thing is obviously the GDP growth that comes from having a great marina and this project. So next slide. This is pretty quick just to show the differential between the current lease and the new lease. Current lease has a minimum guaranteed rent of $320,000. Today, the minimum guarantee will grow to 1.9 million. Plus that 1.9 million minimum guarantee will every year grow on a CPI basis. A lot of people don't know this, but the marina has, under Murano Yacht Club of Portofino, Murano Grand, and Icon, has around 500 spaces. So the city wanted to get some parking revenue from that. The current lease, and in the current lease, they don't have that. In the current lease, the capital improvements was zero, obviously, and now we have the $40 million that'll be done pier by pier. And then the air rights purchase, basically we're building 60 units. The city hired two appraisers, probably the highest appraisal I've ever seen before for 60 units at $77.5 million. But here we are, and I accepted the city's appraisals, even though I probably disagreed with them, but really wanted to get this project done and moving forward. So we agreed to it. Next slide. This is a quick calculation just to walk you through how we come about with this incremental kind of amount for the city and really the city coffers, and obviously dealing with this pandemic and the impact on the hospitality sector. I think it's important. And so this doesn't include any of the $62.5 million in capital improvements we're doing, but in essence, it shows what the new lease at a net present value basis, the real estate tax revenue on a net present value basis, and then the sale of air rights, and then what the current lease would in projected revenue would show. So basically we're at around $147 million of, and this is only through 2051. If we would have carried the lease longer, it would have been more, but one of the things I wanted to do is really be careful to show the current lease is 32 years. So what's the benefit for the next 32 years? I'm really only comparing those two numbers rather than obviously a larger number as this lease becomes, would be longer. Next slide. Program, next slide. So currently the property is somewhat outdated, somewhat of a back of house, if you will, and a lot of pavement and asphalt parking. So our idea was try to put the new building kind of in the same, general footprint of where the existing building was, and then just do, a bunch of improvements for permeability and green space for the rest of the site. Again, it's only 60 units, and because of the reduction of retail that we did in the overall programming, there's a reduction in trips based on our Kinley Horn study that we submitted to the city and was reviewed by the next slide. Next. So here we have the marina, basically around 400 slips. There's a lot of significant issues just related to sea level rise. I don't know if you guys have been there during high tides, but it's in pretty bad shape, and I think the infrastructure is really necessary. on a long-term basis. And so obviously being a city asset, I think it's important to get this infrastructure, and the city not only has this minimum guaranteed rent, but also gets, is getting a percentage of all gross receipts from this marina. So I think it's gonna be a positive economic impact, and also trying to upgrade our city to kind of just have a great visibility and identity from a brand standpoint. I think is important to have a very vibrant and a resilient marina that's hardened for storms, and the city also limited and restricted that there were always going to be a certain number of smaller slips, which was important in order to create the diversity as well. So that's a good thing. Next slide. This is some of the kind of existing functional elements of the marina. Next slide. And then for us, we're just saying we want to kind of improve the baywalk, improve the lighting, improve the floating docks, the landscape, the bike racks, just the benches, just trying to create a little more in keeping with what the neighborhood's really become. Next slide. Thanks. Next slide. So parts of the baywalk, and obviously the baywalk and beach walk are such an important part of our community, and was super important back in the South Point revitalization plan. And so this section of the baywalk is somewhat not, I think, consistent with kind of the general look and feel of some of the better places in the marina. So our goal is to really do a good upgrade for the baywalk here. Next slide. These are just some inspirational images. Obviously, this is not a design; it's really a concept. If we're able to capture November 3rd and get all the votes in and be able to have a positive campaign, I think that we obviously need to go through DRB and planning board, and really we'll have much more details on this. But overall, it's just an idea of how some of the landscape designers we selected, how to treat landscape and pavement and kind of really make it work together. Next slide. Next slide. So this is kind of the existing retail today. These are all functional businesses, important businesses that we want to preserve in the community. But the building is somewhat outdated and somewhat there's a lot of issues with the building that I think having a new facility is going to really have a better experience, I think, for residents. And we'll still have the dive shops. We're still going to have the marina shops and everything else, and have waterfront dining, which is so important. But again, we're reducing that by 57,000 square feet, and we're trying to create some other concepts to really have some more neighborhood-friendly retail. Next slide. So these are just some images of kind of the goal, right, of what we're trying to achieve here. And I think having a fitness component and having just a kind of the existing kind of neighborhood-friendly tenants, but also kind of in a much cleaner and better space, or physical space, or better quality space, I think, which is important. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. So here we have the resiliency components, and obviously we're reducing the site pavement by creating all this open green space. We have a huge cistern tanks that we're putting that's going to be holding not only the water from the site, but the water from the neighborhood. We also have, we're adding bioswales that are going to be created along Alton Road. We also have around the 20 wells that I mentioned earlier. So we're really, and the city has a list in the development agreement of specific requirements that we have to build into the project, and it's part of our infrastructure spending for the neighborhood. Next slide. Thank you. Next slide. So here we have kind of just a general sense of the neighborhood and where we are, and as you can see, this kind of recurring rhythm of parks and kind of where we kind of arrive at the site. Next slide. And one of the interesting notions when you go to south of Fifth, it's Second Street's become it's really an interesting way of connecting from the beach over to the marina. And it was something we discovered working on the site where, really that Second Street, and we're doing some improvements, hopefully to Alton Road, to make that pedestrian connection safe. But the idea is that not only do we have this amazing bay walk, but we also have an ability for people to be able to walk and and connect to the waterfront and really have a beautiful place for the community to be able to utilize. Next slide. This is not the final design, but this is a concept that we put together just to kind of showcase the size and scale and how it relates to the marina, which I think we felt was an important slide. Next slide. Next. Here we have the site plan. So basically the site's over 3 acres. We're building only in 45,000 square feet. And actually the tower, one of the earlier versions that we had proposed was somewhat of a short and wide building. And based on all the outreach we did and at the planning meetings, and including the planning director and others, we kind of went with a slender idea, which is 120 by 120 feet. So imagine the site is around 519 or 517 feet, and the width of the tower is only 120. So that was an important thing that we created, and also have kind of a lot of green space. On the left side, you see it's a little more operational. The open space, we have a commercial drop-off. We have entrances for loading, entrances in for the garage. You see the marina petroleum tanks on the bottom there. And then just trying to, do beautification to make the place look special, but at the same time functional, and which I think is very important to have a very functional operating marina. And then obviously we have the park to the north, and that's Rebecca Towers on the right-hand side, and that's on the left-hand side, Murano Grand. Next slide. Next slide. So here we have our proposal, which Bjark Ingels is the designer, but basically the bottom portion of the site is kind of that public domain where the retail and office kind of boat brokers, et cetera, will be. And then the upper part of the building is around is the 60 units, and that's the air rights that we're paying approximately $77.5 million for. And so this, one of the big important things was, how does the Ocean Beach Historic District see through the site, and why they wanted us to taper the pedestal from a standpoint. The community really appreciated that. The prior design was somewhat longer. It was around 330 feet long, and we really shrunk and minimized the pedestal in order to open the vistas and views, which was part of that historic South Point revitalization plan. And so that's kind of the first concept, if you will. And next slide. And then we have the park again, and that's pretty much it for now. Sorry for taking so long, but wanted just to briefly go through that, and I'm available for any questions, comments, and love to get your input. Thank you so much.
Right. If anybody has any questions, David, I'm going to share with you some things that I've heard. There was a hit piece, as you know, I'm sure, that hit the mail, and we know that Miami Beach United is against the tower. We know that the Chamber of Commerce is obviously for the tower. I know the height came from meeting with neighborhoods, and some activists actually were very complimentary of adding the height versus the width. And so, I'd like to tell our residents in Belle Isle, we have a very similar thing over there at 31 Venetian Way. And we know that those buildings are only 6 stories tall, but they broadside the whole thing. And, instead of doing that, you're doing a taller, slender tower.
And I could address the Miami Beach United, because I had interface, for instance, Ron Starkman, who's the chair of the city's budget committee and also a member of Miami Beach United, is a strong supporter of the project. And I think there was an issue there specific to road vacations. And so what's unique about this road vacation, because I know there's been several road vacations done before, is that this road vacation is actually going to the voters, where so it kind of qualifies for the charter, because the charter, there's been a legal opinion that road vacations violate the charter. Some legal opinions say they don't violate the charter. Well, in this case, the road vacation is actually going to the voters. So I've communicated with a few of the board members at Miami Beach United. A lot of them are friends, and I think there was just a policy specific to road vacations, because I think most, if not all, felt that obviously the improvement of the lease, the beautification of the area, and also the investment into the area and into the city was something important. But we really got hung up on that. As it relates to the neighborhood, a lot of community leaders and activists, that typically are very anti-development, such as Frank Del Vecchio, or even former Mayor Matty Bauer and others, significant supporters of this project. And so for us, I think, the hit piece has come from a specific resident that lives in Morano Grande, that don't need to go into details, but that set up this website and has been doing these websites. And so for me, it's a question, I just want to educate everyone, and obviously I want everyone to make their own decision, but it's a really bad lease. And I believe to just let this asset linger like that for the next 32 years is not the right move. But obviously I'm biased, and just really, I'm a resident. I live in San Marino. I live on Venetian. I've lived there. I've lived in actually Morano Grande, and then lived in Venetian on San Marino for the last almost 20 years. And so I care a lot about the city and what the needs are and what we need to do going forward, and just really sometimes view that we need to look at how we could hack capitalism to kind of solve some of the society's challenges, whether it's financial or resiliency or infrastructure. So, but anyways, just wanted to address that, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you. And Herb, you had a question.
Well, I just would like to clarify one thing. Miami Beach United is not opposed. They aren't taking any position on this. The thing they were concerned about is vacating the property, the street, and it's not on the ballot. There is no ballot question about vacating the property, which is what we were concerned about, and that's why we were unhappy.
Understood, or completely understand. It's a subtlety that's kind of very difficult, because what happens with these questions, you have 75 words, and so what ends up happening is, and this is somewhat of a complicated deal, right? You have a lease with infrastructure spending, and then you have a sale of air rights with infrastructure spending as well. And so the notion, though, is that the development agreement and lease agreement all talk about the road vacation, but there was no question saying specifically road vacation. And so, and also what happens with these road vacations is what they're going to do. What are the public benefits? Like traditionally, what happens with these road vacations, they only do them if there's these public benefits. And so what is going to the community in the vote is the public benefits, because obviously it's part of the overall deal, and the city added that as a third question. But Herb, I completely understand and appreciate what you're saying, and I thank you so much for that clarification.
The other thing that was in a
Just wanted people to know that we were unhappy that they didn't get a chance to vote on it.
Yep.
And the valuation too, I know opponents are saying that the land is much more valuable, but I think that it's important to point out that the land was appraised independently, and it was done before COVID as well. So it was at market value, right?
There were two appraisals done, guys. And to be honest with you, 60 units at $77.5 million is over $1 million an acre. I mean, $1 million a unit, I'm sorry. And it's, and for air, right? So with the complexities of building on a lease, because the city's staying with the land, and so it's a very high appraisal, something that with the timeline that we had, I really wasn't able to challenge really. We had our own appraisals that were done, but the city engaged two different appraisers, Walker Duke and CB Richard Ellis, and this is where they came in value, and we just had to meet it. But obviously it's an easy thing for any objector just to say, oh, this is a giveaway or this or that. So I would go toe to toe with anyone as it relates to whether we are overpaying for these air rights. But I appreciate everybody's opinion, and I just got to do the best way I can to educate people.
No, we appreciate it, and we are over time, but you know, oh, one more thing, it bothers me because Monty's, they want to save Monty's by opposing this project, but the truth is, for those of you who don't know, Monty's was in violation of their lease prior to COVID even. They're not doing great business-wise. So, and you guys, you're not out to get rid of Monty's, but they're not getting grown very well right now.
Prior to starting this project, you know, I know the family that owns Monty's. I actually know personally Monty Trainer. I got to know him very well when we started building in Coconut Grove. And so, and Monty's a big supporter of this. And our idea is we want to keep Monty's there. Just, you know, kind of, you know, just enhance it and upgrade it a little bit. And so our goal is to, you know, work on a solution with Monty's, and we've been in active discussions with them. But obviously, if this deal happens, then obviously that's something we want to solidify. And if it doesn't happen, then obviously the existing building and the existing deal they would have to continue to deal with that. So I think, you know, my goal is always to try to make this thing a win-win for everyone. And, you know, we have, you know, existing business owners that are supporting us and supporting this project, and existing boat brokers as well. And really, they really realize, you know, that the place is somewhat outdated and needs some infrastructure and love. And so that's kind of what we were trying to do.
Okay, David, we appreciate your time again. Can you just give us one more time your website in case anybody wants to go and look at more information?
Sure. We have two websites. The first one is mbmarinapark.com.
Okay.
And the second website is yesformarinapark.vote.
Okay. All right, David.
The MB Marina Park has a lot of the technical stuff, and then the vote one is more of a campaign website.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again for your time. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
You.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, we're trying. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Belle Isle Park update. As if by magic, you saw our swales being planted over the last few days. Not an easy feat. I will tell you that the city's budgets have really been cut down. They've gotten rid of a lot of contracts and contractors that maintain things. And because of our great relationship with the Parks Department, you know, they pulled as many tricks out of their hat as they could to get these swales fixed for us. And I'm delighted. I know it's been a long time of kind of looking crappy. Because of the governor's rules changes on Friday, all city playgrounds will be open as of today at 4 o'clock. So our playground will be back in business. Unfortunately, ours is in the midst of getting the surface redone. So I'm told that will be done around the middle of the month, around the 15th, that the surface should be installed and the park will be back to normal. So I know the parents have really been reaching out and waiting for that playground to open. So we should be really looking much more normal in the next couple weeks. The park should be good. We're getting a lot of people in the park. It's really being well used. And so that's that. We have had some iguana issues in the dog parks. We know there's a lot of iguanas. And again, the city has eliminated the budget for the iguana ratification, but we were promised that we would get one more treatment. So hopefully that'll help with that. The lighting that Debbie worked on and that asked for, it did get passed in the budget. I believe it was Commissioner Samuel who put that in the budget for us, or got it heard, and we do have it in the budget. It is coming, and I was hoping to get more of an update today. I did not get it. The parks guy is trying to help me find out. We just don't have an answer of where they are, but the money has been allocated, we will get the extra lighting in the park. And I know it's on the list. I just don't have a timeline for that yet. What else can I tell you? Does anybody have any other comments or questions about the park? Herb, are you waving to me? You're muted. Oh, you're muted, Herb. I can't hear you.
I was waving at Scott.
Oh, okay.
Can I make one comment about the iguanas?
Yeah.
Apparently, a lot of dogs have gotten like super, super sick, including mine. So I would just like to warn everyone who's listening who has a dog, the dogs cannot eat iguana.
Yeah, they like it. They seem to like
If
it.
they do, they get a very severe bacterial infection. My dog was vomiting blood. And the vet said that this is pretty common when there's a lot of rain, that the grass absorbs a lot of the bacteria. And so people should just be careful. And if you see that your dog is like super sick, it probably is a bacterial infection that may be a result of that. And a $500 vet bill later, I now know this.
Yeah, we had a similar episode, and that's what the dogs, they like to roll in it, and then you'll see them try to eat it, and you got to watch your dog, and that's why we are getting another treatment of eradication, because the iguanas, have been out of control. So I don't know, that might be something that we might have to look into as an association to see if we can maybe supplement that if the city can't regularly do it, because they're out of control. And
will they be spraying or whatever it is inside the dog park or the whole park?
I think the whole park. They know that it's particularly an issue in the dog park because the dogs eat it for some reason.
Right.
And there were two
delicacy.
They were two ginormous, like alligator-sized iguanas that were in the trees there a couple weeks ago. So yeah, that's really annoying. So we got that. Our next issue, guys, we've gotten more noise complaints in the last few months than I think I have in the last 15 years that I've lived on the island. All kinds of noise. We have cooling tower noise from 16 Island that we're getting complaints from both Costa Brava and the Grand Venetian residents are hearing that. I know that they were going to address that, and that Debbie was working with them. They had hired a consultant to try to do some noise abatement, and then the company went out of business, and so they are back to square one with that, right, Debbie?
They actually, the president sent me a note today, and basically they've done nothing, and it's been years. And so my residents in Costa Brava are livid. And long story short is we've gone to the city, and the main issue is that there is no decibel code level that's considered enforceable in the city of Miami Beach. And there hasn't been one for 30 years. And so Scott and I discussed this because I lived on the southern tip of Rivo Alto for 25 years. I faced Monument Island, and every single weekend there were really loud boats and jet skis and music, and they would send out patrol people or code enforcement people, and they never could enforce anything because there is no code. And this relates, initially I thought that the 16 Island tower noise was a Belle Isle problem, but it's really a citywide problem. And the city just needs the guts to either go with the county law, which has a decibel, as does most every other city and county. And I would like to advocate that we, as an association, lobby the city to create to enforce a decibel ruling. And if they're not willing to create one, that they agree to use the county's code. Because it's absurd that we as taxpayers are paying for code enforcement people to come out to sites where there are noise complaints, and there's nothing they can do because there's no measurement level. And so people are building things. There's nothing in the building code that has to do with noise. There's nothing in any code which has to do with noise. And so while multiple people from the city have come out to look at 16 Islands cooling tower, it was built with a permit, but it is a nuisance. And so something needs to be done to affect or improve our quality of life, because we, at least in our building, residents cannot utilize their own terraces because you go outside and it sounds like a landing strip. And so I don't see a way around it unless the code changes, and it's been 30 years. So I think the time has come.
The cooling tower was one issue, but we've been hearing from a lot of people about
Yes.
jet skis and music from boats. And I know
Yes,
that,
I've heard jet skis, music from boats. People
Yeah.
complain about
And they-
motorcycles and mopeds
Right.
and cars, and they have police that are on Venetian Causeway, and there's nothing they can do. If people go by and they're like super loud, there's not, unless they're speeding or their car is stolen, there's nothing they can do without a decibel level reading.
so
And
back
it's a
in,
pretty common thing. So I just don't understand why it doesn't exist and what the big deal is. So
it is. So Debbie and I, and I know because, like I said, the complaints from the neighbors have been more than ever with jet skis, with boats, with music from both the water and from cars on the Venetian, as well as really loud motorcycles and things like that. Debbie's right. There's no code in the city, and the city passes all these ridiculous rules and has fits over restaurants and ambient music and all of this crazy stuff where all they need to do is go by the county rule of whatever the decibel level is. And if any noise exceeds it, they can write a ticket. And that's the end of it. And we spoke to Commissioner Samuelin about it, and he said that his colleagues were opposed to it a while back. But I can tell you right now, we're a big voting bloc, and I've gotten so many complaints, like so many. So what I'm asking you to do as a resident is if you can ever document your noise with a very short video. I know you can do the jet skis. I got 16 jet skis at 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday that I videoed with the noise. I know that if you hear boats with their radios blaring, waiting for the bridge to go up on the causeway, I know that when the bridge has been up and there's been traffic stopped, that you have cars that are blaring their radios. I think that these are things that if you can take a 15-second snippet, I am going to put together a video that we submit to our commissioners and let them see the quality of life that they're just not enforcing. And it really does at this point. It is a simple quality of life issue. It's been worse than ever since COVID, I think because everybody's home and because more people are on the water and more people are on the causeway, and it's just a problem, and people are getting really frustrated. So we're gonna put that in our next newsletter, give you guys an opportunity to give feedback about that. But
can I ask a question, Scott? Is it possible that Belle Isle Residents Association adopts a motion? Because my understanding of what Mark Samuelin said is that we could come together as an association and request this. Is that something that we could discuss?
I would like to suggest that if we do something, we should also contact the other resident associations in our community down here and see if they're being troubled by the same things. Maybe we could get together 3 or 4 of us and be more powerful that way.
yeah, Herb, and I definitely think this is an MBU issue that they would take up with us now.
What about south of 5th and West Avenue and Sunset Harbor and,
No, I think everybody would. I think this is a citywide issue that people are really, are really tired of the chaos and the quality of life issues. And I think that, yeah, I would love to. So what Debbie and I think we'll work on a resolution from our association, and then we'll put it in front of you to approve it. Does anybody have any opposition to us doing that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, my understanding is that it's a pretty simple resolution. It basically says we either abdicate to what the county code is, or we create a code that's equally as strong or stronger, because that's the way the law works. And otherwise, without it, it's unenforceable. So that makes sense.
Yeah, so
And
I
I
think,
thank you all for your support. And I agree. I think it's a citywide issue. And whenever they want to close a restaurant, all of a sudden they're allowed to come out and say, oh, your music's too loud. But, you know, they could come and hear this noise that literally sounds like an airfield and say, we agree with you, it's too loud, but there's nothing we can do. So I'm over it. 30 years is enough. They can do something.
yeah, no, we do. So that being said, does anybody else have any comments or questions or any new business?
Yes, Scott, it's
Uh-huh.
Monica. Hi. You said that you voted at the Botanical Garden. I just wanted to note that I early voted at City Hall. I believe that's our early voting site, and then the precinct is still Botanical Garden?
Correct. Early voting is only at City Hall, I think, and maybe at the North Beach Library. But the day of voting is at the Botanical Garden for our district. So yeah, if you're going to vote early, I hope everybody's going to vote, and I hope if you can that you will put on a mask and go vote in person. And again, the Botanical Gardens the day of is really easy, but Monica's right. If you're going early voting, it is only at City Hall.
And the other thing is that they have the drop boxes only for early voting. If you want to send in a mail-in ballot, you cannot drop it off at the Botanical Garden. You have to take it to Corral on election day. So the drop boxes are only at early voting. And also, I early voted in both primaries since COVID. No one was there. It was so safe. It was better than Publix.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you. That's all.
Yeah, I think the city does the voting people do a really good job. I mean, the Botanical Gardens is not a crowded thing, and City Hall definitely people were outside lined up, and they go in and keep it's really not a dangerous or scary thing to do. So I hope those of you that can will do it in person, because this is going to be a barn burner this election. So Gary.
Yes, Scott, the drop-off boxes, will they be protected in the area of the early voting?
I have no, I can't imagine they wouldn't. And I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but I'm just back to the point. If anybody can vote in person on the day of, like, just do it. Like, I don't know. What's going on in this country, and what people are threatening and what's going on. So I just don't, I'm going to do it in person, as I always do on the day of voting. And I would highly recommend that you do it. It's not like there's ever been like massive lines, except the Al Gore election, I think, was the only
There
one.
is a problem with that slightly, because you have to have your mail-in ballot with you to go vote in person to show that you haven't used it.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, I don't.
A lot of people get the mail-in ballot, and you're supposed to bring it to the voting booth.
I can't speak to that, but I hope that if you're I hope everyone's voting. You can go to Miami-Dade website, and it's really awesome. You actually can log on and you can see stuff about yourself. You can get a sample ballot. And again, if you have a mail-in ballot, I don't know the instructions for that, Gary, but make sure you understand, the mail-ins.
We've been doing it for a while, so we know exactly what.
Even the lack of fraud, I'm not saying there's fraud, but there is a elimination percentage. 1 to 6% of those ballots get eliminated because they're either not signed, the envelopes are not put in properly. If there's anything that's not followed, if you haven't followed the directions precisely, your ballot can be eliminated. And that's really a shame if you've taken the time to vote, if you haven't done it properly.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did the group, of those of you who registered to vote by mail, did you receive your ballot yet? Because I did register for it, but I haven't received it. And I've heard
Next week,
because I've heard a lot of other people who got it in other areas, but not on Belle Isle.
No, I don't think it's been out yet for Miami Beach.
Okay.
David's trying to say something.
David, you're muted.
David.
David Leeds, you are muted.
Okay. I was told by somebody that is, I was told by, I think, authoritative source that they're going to start mailing those absentee ballots or mail-in ballots tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
And early voting begins the 24th and goes through the 31st of October. And it's very easy process, as Monica said, and they're very
It
smooth.
begins the 19th, sorry. Early voting begins the 19th.
I think it's the 19th, Scott.
They've moved it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Two
I was
weeks.
solicited.
I'm
I was
looking at
solicited by
I'm looking at
somebody
the website and it says the 24th, but if it's the 19th, that's even better.
And
I was solicited by somebody to early vote, and I said, I'm going to vote starting sometime on the 19th. They said, well, that's in Broward. And they wrote me back another email and said, it's the 19th. And I mean, they're working on that. This person's volunteering. So that's the last I heard about it.
Okay, good.
We should all have plenty of time to vote.
So the other thing I forgot to tell you, everybody who's listening, is today is the last day that you can fill in the census. And if you haven't done it, we put a link in the email we sent out. And you know, this is money that our city and region gets just because you're here. So if you're not filling out the census, it only takes like 5 minutes. I don't even think that long. If you're not filling out the census, we're not getting money for you as a citizen. And we have a really low rate. And just because of that, we get less federal money. So you still have, I think, till midnight tonight. And if you can just go to the census website and do it, it's like My Census 2020, I think, but you can just Google 2020 census and you can get to the website, and it only takes a minute. If you have not filled it out, please do it. It's, you know, it's a lot of money.
What's the website, Scott? I think I've already done it, but it was so long ago, I don't remember.
Let me just see if you,
I thought I saw that some federal judge said that it's supposed to go another month. It wasn't cut off like the administration wanted to do. They wanted early cutoff, and it said no, they have to go another month as originally according to law. I'm not sure, but that's what I read the other day.
So it's www.2020census.gov. And it's really, really quick. And it is today. Today is the deadline. That's another thing that our president made today the deadline. They were going to extend it after into next year, but they shortened it instead. So we should be counted and get our money. A couple more questions that I didn't. Rick Hirsch asked, do I really think there's more noise or because people are at home during the day, or is there really more noise? And I think there's really more noise. I used to work from home and I was home all weekends, and there's more jet skis than there's ever been. There's definitely more noise. I know the cooling tower thing's been going on with 20 Island and with 16 Island for a long time. And I know the residents that are really annoyed. And listen, these buildings put in these cooling towers, they do it with permits. And the fact that these companies put in towers that are louder than the old ones they replace are kind of ridiculous. And that the city doesn't measure the decibels when they're installed. That could be completely avoided with that. We got some voting stuff. I think that's about it. Our next item was to just set our next meeting. Did anybody have any other questions before we do that? And gosh, so if we can set an October meeting, let's do it later in the month if that's okay with people. And does the 26th, 27th, or 28th work for people?
Okay with me.
The 27th on Tuesday would be great.
Does anybody have an objection to the 27th?
Fine for me.
I can't do the 27th, but if everyone else can, just go ahead without me.
Okay. Okay, sorry, Deb, let's do the 27th. And is the time 7 o'clock as we normally did Is that okay with everybody?
If we could do earlier, like 6:30, that'd be great.
Does anybody have a problem with 6:30 on the 27th? Okay, so let's,
Arlene usually has a problem.
And to Zoom again, Scott?
yeah. Yeah, I know there's always gonna be a problem with somebody. Does Wednesday, oh. So, okay, let's go to the 27th at 6:30. Let's just do it. And if everybody can't be there, then so be it. And next year we'll try to set up again. You know, we've always tried to set up being the second Tuesday on the month or whatever, and there always seems to be something that happens. Yes,
There was
sir.
one other thing. We were going to ask if anybody would like to join the board.
Yeah, we were. And we always ask this. We right now I don't think we have anybody from the Vistas. And I don't think we have anybody from, we do have Lisa Paley from 16 Island. If anybody else would like to be on the board, we have a link on our website, Belle Isle Realtor, excuse me, Belle Isle Residence.org, or you can send an email to belleisleresidence@gmail.com. And we're looking for people to join our board and to volunteer for us. So we'll be having our annual meeting in January. And so we have a couple more months to finish this year up. We're going to start setting some more goals for next year. And I think that's it. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor. Thank you guys very much. Have a great evening.
Good
Thank
job.
Bye.
Thanks, Scott. Both Scotts.
Thank you, both. Yes, thanks.